Hey, Yinz guys and gals, gather round for a journey like no other. It's time to hop on board the Where Yinz Goin podcast. From the rivers that meet at the point to form downtown Pittsburgh, to the Great Salt Lake, to the furthest corners of the globe, Matt and Katie will be your compass, your confidants, your companions of that, as we explore the wonders of travel. So kick back, relax on your couch, and let the wanderlust wash over Yinz as we discover new horizons and reminisce about old favorites. With Matt and Katie by our side, the sky's the limit. Join Matt and Katie on the Where Yinz Goin podcast, because when it comes to travel, the journey's just getting started. And now, without further ado, let's give a shout for your guides through the highways and byways of travel, the planning partners, the travel tandem, Matt and Katie.
How Yinz doing? Welcome to the Where Yinz Goin podcast. I'm Matt. I'm one of your hosts. Joining me again today is my co-host Katie and then Karen. So welcome back, Katie. It's good to see you again. And Karen, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks, Matt and Katie, for inviting me.
Oh, I'm so excited to have you here, Karen, because sometimes I get tired of talking just to Matt. So
No offense, right?
no offense. He gets tired of hearing from me too. So
That's not true. We love hearing from Katie. So Karen, whenever we have a guest on, we like to ask this question. What is your favorite place that you've ever been? Or is there a place that you would like to visit the most?
Well, I think there's lots of places I'd like to visit, but one thing that I would like to do is go back to Disneyland. A couple years ago, we went out for 3 days and got a quick tour of it. Not tour of it, but we went and experienced as much as we could, but we ended up not seeing a couple of things. And I think going back and knowing a little bit more about the parks to begin with, I think that would be, I think that's what is first on my bucket list, to getting back there to more experience Disneyland.
You can never go wrong with a trip to Disneyland. That Karen and I are both relatively Eastern United States. So Disney World is where we normally go. So Disneyland, right. It's a kind of a special trip. It's longer. It takes a little bit more planning, but there's something so magical about it.
I am headed to Disneyland in just a couple of weeks.
Yay!
Hey.
That's
Just for
exciting.
a stop right before our Disney cruise. We're just going to go in and spend a day and then spend a day on the back end of our cruise too.
So you're making the cruise sandwich.
Yeah.
Disneyland is the bread.
Yep. That's the way to do it, right? You got to stop and get yourself a churro in Disneyland. Disneyland churros are better than Disney World churros, if I dare say that out loud. The humidity doesn't affect them as much.
It's all about science.
I'm going to have to give that a try.
You're going to have to give it a try, Karen, and tell me what you think, because I think that they're better, but that's just my opinion. So.
And this is why this podcast is so great, because we get the hard-hitting facts and opinions like Katie just gave.
Yep.
We don't mess around. So what we're reminiscing about Disneyland, though, our topic today will be Walt Disney World, and specifically the transportation that you can use while you are in Walt Disney World. And so they have a vast fleet of vehicles, from buses to boats to the monorail, gondolas, vans, your own 2 feet. So there are plenty of ways to get around. We're going to start off the one that's not free, because all that stuff is complimentary. It's included whenever you're on property. But if you would ever want to rent a car, or if you're driving down, if you have your own car, if you're close enough, when you park going through the parks, if you are staying at one of the Walt Disney World Resort hotels, the parking is complimentary. If you're staying off property, then it's $30 for the non-guests. And if you want preferred parking, no matter where you're staying, it's like $45 to $55 depending on the day. RVs, limos, and bigger vehicles, they're $35. So I'm sorry, Katie, whenever you're rolling with your limo, entourage and your chauffeur. So,
Yeah.
um, but then the nice thing is that the parking will transfer. So if you have a park hopper and you pay to park at, there's the dogs. See, the dogs know about it. Pay to park at Magic Kingdom, and then you do your park hopper and you drive over to Epcot. If you show them your receipt, you don't have to pay double for parking. So that's really nice. But now, no matter what, if you are going to park at one of the parking lots, those are big. And the common thing is that the parking lot for Magic Kingdom is bigger than Disneyland Park.
It's
Like,
huge. It's
actually,
massive.
I'm not sure if that still applies because they did some recent addition, with Galaxy's Edge being added to Disneyland. I'm not sure if it still fits in there, but yeah, it's big. Just says it. So they have nice trams that can take you to the front of the park, to where the entrance to the parks are, or if it's Magic Kingdom to the transportation and ticket center. Although, make sure that you make a note of where you park. And I believe that's on the app too, that you have a little thing of the parking locator.
So way back in the day, my father-in-law took, it was right after my husband and I got married, so we didn't go, but he took my three youngest sister-in-laws. They all went to Disney World, and they went during July 4th weekend, and they parked their white minivan in the parking lot of Magic Kingdom. And this was before, they had like GPS or anything like that to tell you where you parked. And they got out after a long, hot day, after the fireworks and everything like that. And they tried to find their white minivan for a couple of hours.
Oh no,
Rental.
that would be awful.
Yes, it would be, wouldn't it? My father-in-law, one of his favorite phrases was "oh golly," and I can just picture him going up and down the rows of white minivans going, "oh golly, oh golly." Makes me laugh.
The dogs appreciate that story too. So yeah, and that was before the time of cell phones. Whenever you just snap a picture of the end of the row where you're at, and that's always one thing that we park, and then we're so excited to get to the parks, we start walking like, oh crap, where do we park? All right, we're
Yep.
sort of around this one.
So even with like the GPS and everything like that, I always suggest that you take a picture in any of the theme parks, anywhere that you're going to be where there's going to be a massive amount of cars and people. And for some reason, the more joyful of a day you have, the more forgetful you are of where you parked your car. So always take a picture of like the parking lot sign. That also in the airport, like if you're leaving and parking your car in the airport parking lot or any of the park and ride areas, just take a little picture of either the card that they give you when you get off the airport shuttle, or take a picture of the parking lot signs so that you have that on your phone and you don't have to like go hunting for your car for hours on end trying to find it.
I do that all the time, and it still doesn't work. It's like, wait, I know I parked in J15. Where's my car? Although, whenever you are at the end of the day, also whenever you're taking the tram, make sure you know which parking lot you're in, because in Magic Kingdom and Epcot, they each have two different parking lots, so the different trams will go to different places. Magic Kingdom, it's Heroes and Villains. Epcot, it's Earth and Space. And I've looked at the one. It's like, wait, which one were we in this morning? And you have to look at your thing. Oh, Jafar row. Okay, I guess we're in the Villains one. Got it. For Hollywood Studios and Animal Kingdom, there's only one, but Animal Kingdom, that parking lot is massive. Even if you get there early, the preferred parking is close, but even the closest non-preferred parking is still a little bit of a hike. Although depending on when you get there and when the tram's coming, sometimes it's faster to walk. Although the tram does save your feet a bit. And that's what we did the last time that we got out of Hollywood Studios. My wife wanted to ride the tram, and they were just loading up, and they just got on. And I said, I'll walk, because I had the stroller. I didn't want to have to break it down and put it in there. So I walked, and I actually got to the car before they did. Especially because if it makes different stops, it can take a while for people to get off.
But taking that walk first thing in the morning that's your morning stretch to get you ready for the day.
Get the blood pumping, exactly.
Yep.
Especially when you have all that nervous energy or the excitement. It's like, yes, and you can pretty much sprint a marathon in about an hour with all that energy in you. Well, you're going to kind of do a marathon throughout the day. So, all right. Next up, they have the minivans, spelled MINNIE, which I love these things. These are so cool. That they're SUVs, so they're not quite vans, but they are painted red with white polka dots, and they have a little bow on them, or well, painted on. And you can ride in these actual minivans. I love the naming on this. That's just so clever. You can order these through Lyft, so it's run through Lyft, but cast members do the driving. They hold up to six passengers and they have car seats available.
And those cast members are especially trained. So you can't just be like a random cast member that gets the minivan shift. They are specially trained. And it's really great. Like if you're looking for an option to travel quick between the parks or anything like that, and you want to kind of have like a magical experience, because they really are. They're like something that turns people's heads when you see them. They're such cute little vehicles. And the thing about car seats and everything like that, they come prepared. They'll pick you up at your resort, take you to any of the Disney parks. They'll also pick you up from the parks, take you to wherever you need to go within Disney property.
We've used them several times when we've had an early morning breakfast reservation, and they come, pick you up and drop you right at the front door, so you can go have your Ohana breakfast or whatever.
Chef Mickey's,
Chef
Chef Mickey's.
Mickey's, or yep, wherever you're going for breakfast that morning.
Where's your favorite
You
place
don't
to
have to wait on the
breakfast
bus.
at, Karen?
I'm sorry.
Where's your favorite place to have breakfast at?
Ohana.
Ohana. I love Boma. Boma is like my favorite breakfast little.
We've had Boma for dinner, but we've not had Boma for breakfast.
Oh, you gotta
I'm
have
gonna have
Boma
to
for
try
breakfast.
that.
Yep.
Cape May Cafe always has a special place in my heart too.
I've never eaten there. I've wanted to try it though. That's on my
We
list.
have we have had Cape May for breakfast, and it was good.
I still think I might go with Chef Mickey's is the best.
You
I
know
haven't
what?
had Ohana though, so I can't, or Boma, so I can't judge that. But Chef Mickey's is, I think, the best I've had. But there's something about Cape May that just speaks to me. There's something about the whole Yacht and Beach Club that it just hits me.
My favorite place for breakfast, if you're not looking for like a buffet, but a little bit of a hidden gem, Ale and Compass at the Yacht Club. They make one of the best breakfasts I have ever had. And it's quiet there in the morning, and it's a great place that like if you're saying goodbye to Disney World and you need like a little bit of a fond farewell and make your belly full before you head to the airport, Ale and Compass. Okay, sorry, Matt. Food.
It's fine. The Ellen Compass, it has better food than you're getting at the airport too,
Yeah,
especially on a flight.
that's for sure.
And with the minivan drivers, that they are great conversationalists, and I guess that goes in the part of the training that they'll give you little tips. They'll give you their, favorites of this, their favorites of that, and so you can get some really good information whenever you talk to them during the ride. So added bonus. Next, and I think this is one of the coolest things they have at Walt Disney World are the vintage amphicars that you'll see driving around near Disney Springs and on Lake Buena Vista. That's actually what that is. So they live the whole city that encompasses Walt Disney World is Lake Buena Vista, but there's actually the lake that's by Disney Springs is Lake Buena Vista. So this will cost you a bit. That it's $125 at least at the time of recording for about 20 minutes. Although they hold up to four people who can ride in these cars. It's open from about 10 in the morning till 10 at night. But talk about an experience driving through that and going under the water and coming out and just the wow factor of having people look at you like, hey, look what we're doing. And it does that another thing that turns heads, just like the minivan. Although I'm always a little bit nervous whenever they're in the water, they sit really low. So there's like only a foot or so between the water line and you getting wet shoes. But one of
That's
the main,
something I've always seen and thought that was it'd be kind of interesting to do, but we've never done that.
yeah, it's on the bucket list of things of we gotta do that sometime. And but then there's always like, well, we're doing this today and we're doing that today, and so we just need to do whenever I go and live in Disney, that's when we're gonna do that stuff. We have all the time in the
Makes a
world.
Disney trip so good though, is you can you always have things, no matter how many times you go back, you always have something that you want to try that's new or different, or something that you haven't had a chance to take advantage of, like one of the great little gems.
And that's the other thing about any Disney trip is you're not going to do it all. So if you don't, prioritize your things of I want to do this, I want to do that. But then there's other things of we can always come back. And that's kind of what we did with our last trip, that it was much different than our trip before that. We did a lot of different things, and there are some things that we really like to do that we just didn't get time for because we were having a good time doing other things. And that's okay because that's the whole purpose of going to Walt Disney World or any vacation at all, is to have fun and to enjoy yourself and to make those memories. And as long as you're doing that, great, you've accomplished your goal. Even if you didn't do something else that was kind of on your list, you had fun. Now, probably the most common transportation that you're going to get at Walt Disney World are the buses, mainly because they have 486 of them that I saw at one count. So, anyway, 450 to 500, that's a lot of buses.
It's
And
massive. Their best bus fleet is massive.
and the ones that are there, the outsides are often painted with Disney characters. So just watch them go by. It's like, oh, look, it's a Goofy bus. Oh, look, there's a mini bus.
And they've taken to now, they sometimes they announce like a new bus that's in the fleet. And so every once in a while, if you're on property, if the newest bus comes around, people will be taking tons and tons of pictures of a bus. I have on my camera reel probably like 10 or 15 buses of favorite characters and everything like that. It's always fun, like with your kids, to be like, oh, we're gonna ride the Mickey bus, or we're gonna ride the Donald bus or the Moana bus or whatever. It's just kind of a little extra bit of magic. I love it.
Yeah, it makes it cute, makes it fun. It's like, oh, it's Mickey. It's not just, oh, we're going to ride the bus. It's the Mickey bus. And now the nice thing about these are the amenities that are just on board, that most of them have Wi-Fi. Some of them have charging ports at each seat. All of them are wheelchair accessible. And of course, the most important thing, especially if you're there in the summer, is the air conditioning. Especially after we're waiting outside a little bit and it's kind of muggy and whatever, to get onto that bus and like cold air. It just feels so refreshing, especially when either you're on your way to the park, it's going to be a hot, long day, or on the way back after it's been a long, hot day and just need that nice little way to relax. Although the one thing is that if you have a stroller, you must fold it up, collapse it down when you get onto the buses. And the buses will run roughly every 20 minutes, but at the resorts, they have a little estimate, a little TV screen that has the estimate of when the next bus is going to come. And they use GPS on the buses to kind of figure that out.
If you stand around long enough at the bus stop at the resort, you become like your own little cheering section. Like if everybody's waiting for the Hollywood Studios bus, there'll be a big cheer that comes up, woo, when it pulls in. And it's kind of a fun little like exciting little extra bonus.
It's the community feeling. It's like why people go to sporting events, to be there in person. And it's the collective, everyone's rooting for the same cause type thing. Let's go Hollywood Studios bus. Let's go Hollywood Studios bus. Okay, that doesn't roll off the tongue too well. With these buses, they connect most of the resorts to the parks, and all of the resorts to Disney Springs and then to the water parks from there. Some resorts actually go straight to the water parks, and any resort that does not have a bus to the parks is because it has another way to get to the parks.
I think it's really cool. And I think this is one of the things that people don't understand if you're not a Walt Disney World, if you're a Walt Disney World newbie, these are all like these transportation options with a few exceptions, the minivans, the amphibian cars, they're all just included in your resort stay. So if you want to go check out one of the other resorts, if you want to go to Disney Springs, if you want to go to the water parks, Disney has made it so that you can get to one spot to the other, typically pretty seamless. There's a couple of little like exceptions that you need to do a few little like tweaks to get from one spot to the other. But if there's somewhere you want to go eat at that's at a different resort than you're staying at, if you want to go check out the Grand Floridian, the gingerbread house at Christmas time, if you want to do like just like a fun little resort exploration to go check out anything that's going on in the different resorts. You can get there with Disney transportation, and it's all included. You don't pay anything extra to get on a bus to take you to the theme parks. You don't pay anything extra to get on the monorail. It's all included, and it's so much fun.
And even if you're not staying at the resorts, all of this transportation is included. So they don't check to see, are you a resort guest or not? And so you get to go in. So it's one of the perks of going to Walt Disney World. So be aware that these buses can be full. So you might have to wait for the next one. And that has happened to me, especially during summer trips whenever it's really busy. And if you're sleeping a little bit later, sometimes you can get that, or even at the morning rush too, depending on which park you're going to and all the logistics. Several resorts might share a bus. So some of them have you go on one and then you'll go to another resort. So it's not always a direct from your resort to the other destination. You might have to make a few stops depending on where along the line you are. The buses start about 45 minutes before the parks open, and they'll end about an hour after the parks close. So if the park's closing at 9 o'clock, you don't need to rush out to the bus. You can linger around a little bit. Maybe you do your little bit of shopping, take a nice little stroll because you know it's going to be very crowded anyway. So might as well take your time and enjoy that last little, taste of being in one of the parks before you have to go wait in line again to get on the bus.
The one thing that I found, Matt and Katie, is that the value resorts are the ones that usually have multi-stops versus the deluxe resorts that tend to have the direct from the resort to the parks. On the occasion, we have been on the occasion, like when we're there at a lighter time, less crowded time, that sometimes the deluxe resort buses will stop at a second resort. But for the most part, if that's something that you're looking at to, you don't want to be making a bunch of stops or know that the buses are going to be overly crowded. They tend to be a little bit less crowded on the from the deluxe resort. So that might be an option you consider when you're planning your vacation.
And all of the deluxe resorts have a non-bus option to get to at least one of the parks.
Right.
So if you look at the ones that are around Seven
For
Seas
Animal
Lagoon, they all
Kingdom
have,
Lodge, right?
except for the Animal Kingdom Lodge. I think that's the only
in
one.
Shawnee Village.
Yeah, so the
They
exception.
won't let you ride an elephant to.
Darn.
I know. I'd pay to do that. It's a packet. The pachyderms are waiting outside. Pick your pachyderm.
Actually, whenever my wife and I were on our honeymoon in Thailand, that we were driving by the one place and they actually had elephant rides. You could pay to get on one of them. So we did not do it though. It was the price they were asking was a little bit outrageous.
I love elephants. They're so cool. Hey, sorry.
Be careful sitting on them though, because they have little spiky hair that can be very irritating and pokey. So definitely make sure it has a saddle. Going bareback on an elephant is not always, or make sure you have long pants. Now for Disney Springs with the buses, that they have service throughout the day during operating hours, and it will end about 90 minutes after Disney Spring closes. For Blizzard Beach and the Winter Summerland Miniature Golf Course, the All-Star Resorts in Coronado Springs have a direct bus option. All the other resort and buses, and if you're staying at any of the other resorts, you have to transfer at Animal Kingdom. So take it to the theme park, then there'll be another bus. Bus service begins 30 minutes before the park opens and will end about an hour after the park closes. So be careful with that with the golf course too, because Blizzard Beach and the golf course share a parking lot. Is that the golf course does have longer operating hours than Blizzard Beach does. So watch their time if you're doing a little bit later night round of golf, that you have an alternative way of getting home.
It's important that we talk about the fact of how to get to these Blizzard Beach and Typhoon Lagoon, because if you book a Walt Disney World package or a Walt Disney World stay at any of the resorts this year in 2025, for your beginning day, your arrival day, you get admission into one of the Disney World water parks. And Blizzard Beach, I just read the other day, is celebrating its 30th anniversary. They're going to have a big celebration in April, all kinds of fun little things to do. So if you book a trip and head out for spring break in April, you can go ahead and experience Blizzard Beach and all of the fun activities. And you can get there via bus.
And be aware that during certain times of the year that sometimes one of the or the other of the water parks will not be open. That's when they do the refurbishments during the winter months. So whenever we were down there in January, Typhoon Lagoon was closed and we just went to Blizzard Beach. But that was awesome.
Typhoon
So
Lagoon is opening May 1st. So it'll be the one that is open during the summertime. They're thinking that they're only going to open one or the other. And so Typhoon Lagoon is going to be the summer destination for water parks.
and so having Typhoon Lagoon open on May Day.
Yep.
So that's very appropriate with Mount May Day there. So, and if you want to hear more about the water parks, Katie and I did a podcast episode all about the water parks. And now with Typhoon Lagoon, it is pretty much across the street from Disney Springs. So that's where you have to transfer. Take a bus to Disney Springs, then get on the one to Typhoon Lagoon. Again, it opens 30 minutes before the park opens and ends an hour after the park closes. With ESPN Wide World of Sports Complex, there are routes from Pop Century, the Caribbean Beach, and the All-Star Resorts. Now,
I've never been to the
go ahead.
wide world of sports. It looks like a cool venue though. They always have the really neat stuff going on there, athletic stuff and everything. I've never been though.
Yeah, we've always driven by it. Although I know I've watched plenty of different competitions and activities that have happened there. That whenever we were younger, my sisters, I have three sisters, and they were all cheerleaders in grade school. So we watched the cheer competitions from there. And those young ladies are tremendous athletes. And even like with the cheer and the dance competitions, that I have actually had one of my guests who was going down there for the cheer competitions or the dance competitions that I've helped to book for them. Now, moving away from the land, let's go to the sea. So the watercraft. So there are several different options for watercraft in Walt Disney World. Now, with all of them, strollers either have to fold them up or be stored out of the aisles. And they usually have an area that you can put your strollers in. Just make sure you put the locks on the wheels because they tend to move around a little bit. So first one we're talking about are the ferries that go across Seven Seas Lagoon. And this is from the Transportation and Ticket Center to Magic Kingdom or vice versa. And they have three different ferries that they do. The Richard F. Irvine, which has the red trim. And now he was the head of design and planning for Disneyland attractions from whenever it opened until 1973. Admiral Joe Fowler has the blue trim, and he was the construction boss at Disneyland and the general manager for Disneyland's first 10 years. That they initially wanted him because he Admiral, he was in the Navy, and they wanted him to help build the Mark Twain. And he told Walt Disney that they need to have a dry dock for whenever it needs maintenance. And they called it Fowler's Harbor, kind of like a derogatory thing, and Walt Disney did not want it. But Fowler insisted, and whenever the Mark Twain finally needed some work, and they had the dry dock built, and Walt was like, oh, yeah, I guess you're right. And then the last one is the General Joe Potter, which has green trim, and he was the executive VP for the 1964 New York World's Fair, which we might know was kind of famous for some new and innovative Disney attractions. That he used that kind of the testing ground for the Carousel of Progress, the Great Moments with Mr. Lincoln, It's a Small World, and then there was the one that you don't really see it in Disney, but there's the dinosaurs that are on the train in Disneyland. Those came from the one attraction at the World's Fair. But that's where he met Walt Disney, and then Walt hired him to come and help build Walt Disney World. And General Potter was kind of inspirational in helping to build the utilidors under Magic Kingdom Park, which I think is pretty awesome. Have either of you ever been down there? to see the utilidors?
No.
No, I haven't.
Take the do some of the backstage tours. See, that is a ringing endorsement from the Dalmatians. Was that Lilo or Stitch who was barking? Or both?
That's both.
Both.
Hey,
Just like in the movies, Lilo and or Stitch, they cause trouble.
yeah, they anytime a delivery truck goes down the road, they think we're getting deliveries, so they have to bark. And our mailman has made a monster out of them. She leaves them treats every day, and so if she happens to be off and you come in without a treat for them, um, they're very upset. So we have a hidden stash so that they always get a treat when we bring the mail in.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Going back to the ferries, have you guys ever taken the ferry from the Ticket and Transportation Center to Magic Kingdom?
Yeah, be careful about doing it during December because if it's a chilly morning and there's that breeze coming, it gets really cold.
Yeah.
It's kind of one of those things that if you're not in a hurry, it's great. Like, or if you have little ones that want to experience something different and new, but it is definitely not the fastest way to get to Magic Kingdom. It's a great, so for me, I like to flip it and do it on the way back out when when you're not in a rush to like go rope drop anything. Because it's kind of a nice little end of the evening. Like it's kind of the the ferry is neat because you can sit and look around at all of the people and hear all of their stories about what they did that day and all the fun that they had. But it's not the fastest way to get to.
It can be, depending on certain situations. So if you get there and the line for the monorail is really long, then calling the audible to the ferry is not bad because they carry up to 600 guests and the trip takes about 10 to 12 minutes. Although then there's also loading time that you have to worry about and unloading depending on where you're at. But the sometimes the monorail, especially if you're there during some of the not busy times and depending on what time you get there, if the monorail might not be open, it might be your only choice. So just be aware of that. Although whenever we've ever ridden the ferry, the cast members who are helping you with the loading and unloading, they are fabulous.
Yeah,
And
they're great people.
when you're in line, the person with the microphone, they'll be telling stories or telling jokes or asking questions and things. So they do stuff to keep you engaged while you're waiting for to get loaded on, or if you just missed it, or if one's coming down because they have two ferries that travel. Although the one thing I will say about the morning ferry trip, some of the views you get are so fabulous of Polynesian, especially with their new tower, the Grand Floridian, the Contemporary and Bay Lake Tower. We're just seeing the Magic Kingdom get closer and closer as you're making that trip across the water. And getting the pictures with the water in the foreground is also pretty neat. It adds something to it. But they've been very entertaining. The one had just a paper bag, and they were showing a couple of little kids up front their invisible ball trick, where they'd throw their invisible ball up in the air, and they would catch it in the bag. And so he like had his finger as he was holding it, he would flick the bag and it would make a noise and move like the ball was landing in it. And he had these kids engrossed like for 10 minutes as he's throwing it up behind his back, threw it up and just waited, talked to them for like 2 minutes, like, oh, here it comes again. And then so it was such an entertaining morning. It's one of those little magical things of things you're never going to forget, just to make your trip that much more special. And now, besides the giant ferries, they have smaller water taxis, and these will go both on Seven Seas Lagoon and Bay Lake. So, and depending on the color of the flag it flies, that'll tell you which route it's on. So the gold flag, they have launches and cruisers, which similar smaller type of craft that will connect the Magic Kingdom with the Grand Floridian and the Polynesian. Now, before 3 o'clock, the path goes clockwise. So go from the Polynesian to the Grand Floridian, then to the Magic Kingdom. And then after 3 o'clock, it goes to reverse. So it's Magic Kingdom to the Grand Floridian to the Polynesian. So if you're at the Grand Floridian, you might be, last one on whenever you're going towards Magic Kingdom, so no stops. And when you come back, it's a direct route. So Grand Floridian gets a little bit more better billing there. The green flag one has two cruisers that connect the Magic Kingdom with Fort Wilderness, the Fort Wilderness campground. Red flag has a launch and a cruiser that goes between the Magic Kingdom and the Wilderness Lodge. And then the blue flag, which has two launches, will connect the Contemporary with the Fort Wilderness and the Wilderness Lodge. And that goes in a clockwise manner. So
Sometimes
depending on where you're,
I don't know if it's still there, but though when they launched to go to like Fort Wilderness and Wilderness Lodge, there's a tree that is out kind of like out in the little area, and it has cast member shoes on it. They're white dock shoes. And what it is that when the cast members that are some of the boat captains, when they retire or when they stop working for Disney, they throw their shoes up on this tree. And so this tree has all the branches and stuff like that. And there's all of these cast members' shoes on it.
so they think they tie the shoelaces together and
They
then
tie their
make a
shoelaces
little
together, and
bolo thing,
yeah.
like yeah.
Well, it's been a couple of years since I've like seen it, but the last time that we went over to Fort Wilderness to go eat at Hoop-Dee-Doo, the cast member that was there was talking about how they throw their shoes up there, and they clean them off every once in a while because they get the tree gets full, but kind of a neat little tradition.
Adds a little personal touch to it.
Yeah.
So over near Epcot, they have the friendships. So I've seen two ways if it's spelled with as one combined word or two separate words. But the play on word of that with the friendships, it's so neat. It's one of those jokes that's never not funny. But they have a couple different ones that some go on Crescent Lake, and this will go from Epcot to the Boardwalk to the Yacht and Beach Club to the Swan and Dolphin over to Hollywood Studios. And then whenever it comes back, it reverses the direction. So it's Hollywood Studios to the Swan and Dolphin. So it does pretty much the same route. This can take about 10, 15 minutes, although depending on how long it takes people to load and unload and how many people are getting on and off each stop, it can vary. And
We've
then
been on those. This little area is one of my favorite places to stay. Boardwalk, beach club, yacht club. I love this area to stay. And we've done the thing where we've gone over to the boardwalk, where we've been staying at the boardwalk, and we're like, we'll walk over to Hollywood Studios because it'll be faster. And the boat will pull out and we'll start walking, and then the boat captain will honk at us as almost to say, oh, you should have been riding instead of walking.
or he's honking at you saying, good for you for getting your extra exercise in. You
Other
deserve an
little
extra churro.
Yeah, other little story about the friendship boats is when my husband and I honeymooned in Walt Disney World, and this, I don't know if this makes me sound dumb or not, but I'm going to tell it anyways. So I looked out and I was like, look at that little stick, it's floating. That stick is floating and it's keeping up with us. And that was when I found out that snakes can swim. Yuck.
See, these are the type of things that they won't necessarily, they might tell you at the Animal Kingdom, but you get it on this podcast too.
Yeah, snakes can swim, and you too can experience a snake swimming next to your boat if you ride the friendship boats.
Well, this is another similar story that this is back in the early 90s. And I think this is why I like the Yacht and Beach Club so much is that we stayed there in 1991 and again in 1995. So I was right in that age, 11, 12, up to like 15 years old, that, it just made that impression on me with those trips to Disney that, I just love it. But this was before the boardwalk was built, that we were, and, before we even had the option to walk to Hollywood Studios, that we took the boat and we're driving along going towards Hollywood Studios, and out on the left and right, the boat captain says, yeah, something about the alligators. And mom looks out and there's alligators sunning themselves on the on the bank there. And so that's why that I think scarred my mom a little bit with the experience. But yeah, the alligators nice and sunning themselves on the edge. Don't worry, you don't really see them too much now. Although is one of the reasons why they don't let you in the water.
Karen, have you stayed at any of these resorts?
We stayed at the Swan
Swan. It's
Resort.
nice, yes. I really liked it.
Yeah, and it's so nice because it's right there at the back of Epcot, and um, if you want to rope drop one of the Remy.
Yeah, at the International Gateway of Epcot. Yeah,
Yeah, and if you're going to come in from the front of the park, that's a heck of a trek. But that's kind of the thing that the people who are coming from the other resorts, they go rope drop one of the other uh, attractions towards the front, and anyone who's coming from the Yacht and Beach Club or the Boardwalk or this One and Dolphin, they go straight to Remy's. So it's like a split, or other people coming from the Skyliner resorts. But like Katie and I talked on another episode, we split into two episodes about the hotels around the Crescent Lake. And again, that is my favorite place to stay.
love it. We stayed at the Swan Reserve, and I tried to talk my family into renting one of the little um, goose, like
The swan boat, yeah, the paddle boats.
paddle boats. But after the experience with the Surrey cars, they wouldn't do it. So,
You can put Ava on the front. Out of the way, people.
yeah.
Yeah, and depending on if you just missed the boat or whatever, sometimes walking can be faster. But like Katie said, if the boat's right there, they're gonna beep at you when you go by.
That's right.
Now they also have friendships on the World Showcase Lagoon, and there are two different routes you can take. One is between Mexico and Germany. The other one is between Canada and Morocco. Now they're not necessarily any faster than walking around the World Showcase, but the friendships will save your feet. And I
I
know
was going
we
to say that. I didn't realize, I mean, this is something that I didn't like. I knew that they were there, but I didn't really realize what they did. And so one day we just decided to just jump on over near Canada, like, and then go across. And it was just kind of nice that we were like the only people on it. Well, that's not true. There was another guy on it and they tried to get him off and he was like, "No, I want to do this 4 or 5 times. My wife's shopping in all of the shops around." And he's like, "I just want to like relax." But it's kind of nice to save your feet, right? And it's kind of one of those experiences that you could get on, like especially with your little ones, your kids or your grandkids, get on and like it's just one extra little attraction that doesn't have a weight to it typically. And it's kind of a neat way to like get from one spot to another.
and the views. You get some really unique views of going around the World Showcase. And again, being on the water and getting that different perspective. I know we wrote it this past time we were down there that we were in Morocco and my wife and little girl were tired and like, let's just take the boat. We've never done that before. So it's kind of like a new experience. And it's, again, we're going to talk about this for some of the other ones. It's getting on a ride without having to wait in a line. And it's something to do. And it gets you off your feet, which they were very happy for. But I got some really awesome pictures, especially on the other side of the buildings that you normally don't see.
And it is just very really relaxing just to sit down for a minute, and the breeze and the um, just taking the load off your feet and knowing you're going to be closer to where you want to be when you get off there.
That walk around the International Plaza it's a walk. Like it can get
The full loop, I believe, is 1.2 miles.
yeah. And if you're like me, you kind of skitter like a little like a ratatouille mouse from one spot to the other and back and forth and all around. And so it's kind of nice to have something that get you across quicker.
Yeah, it's like the on up the dog was it Doug squirrel? It's
Yeah,
fewer
yeah.
distractions.
That's
We're gonna
me in
get there.
Epcot. Squirrel.
Now over near Disney Springs, they have the Sassagoula River cruise ferries. Now, there's 15 ships, and again, there's different flags for the different routes. So the yellow and purple flag ones. So the yellow one will connect you between the Port Orleans Riverside and Port Orleans French Quarter, and then the purple one will go from Port Orleans French Quarter to Disney Springs Marketplace. So and back and forth. So if you're staying at any of those resorts and you want to go to Disney Springs, you don't need to get on a bus. You can just take the boat. Same thing with the blue flag ones. They connect the Treehouse Villas with Saratoga Springs and Disney Springs Marketplace. The green flag is Old Key West with the Disney Springs Marketplace, and the red flag will take you around Disney Springs. So from the marketplace to the west side to the landing, and it goes in a counterclockwise fashion there.
So these boats are a game changer for staying at Riverside, staying at French Quarter, staying at Saratoga Springs, staying at the Treehouse Villas, because really they're great in the fact that if you want to just hop over to the Springs and grab like a quick dinner, or you've forgotten that one little like thing that you really need and you need to stop by, or you just want to like walk around the Springs, they're the best, easiest way to get to that area. And they're just such, I love those resorts in that. I also love those resorts. If I'm going to say like a moderate resort and I want like something a little bit different, I really, really love French Quarter is one of my favorite. And it might be, I know this is going to come as a surprise. It might be because it's an easy access to the beignets, but it's such a cool little like quaint little resort. I love French Quarter. Love it.
Oh, the theming is so amazing. That from the
Yeah.
theming, it has deluxe level theming for a moderate price.
With the
And
little cobblestone walkways and everything, you really do feel like you're in like the French Quarter of New Orleans. It's just really nice. Love
just a grandeur over it. It makes you feel like, and some of the suites there that you can feel like you're staying at the Grand Floridian for a fraction of the cost, just with the how pretty it is. Slightly different time, time period and location, all that with the decor and everything, but still, it's up there.
One thing we've done too is that when sometimes the buses can get busy, we'll take a bus from one of the parks to either French Quarter or New Riverside, and then walk through the resort to the back and hop on the bus or the boat then to go to Disney Springs. And we tried to do that once during our trip, just to ride those boats down to Disney Springs for um, just for whatever reason we're going to go shopping or to if we have a dinner reservation there. But we'll do that. We try to do that once a trip.
And we usually stayed either the Old Key West or Saratoga Springs, just because I'm a DVC member and Saratoga Springs is my home resort, and then Old Key West is just the least expensive with the points. So, and usually not too crowded. And we love those locations. We usually rent a car for driving, but if it's like I don't want to drive and then I have to park, although parking is free at Disney Springs, which is nice, but just having a little bit more of a direct thing without having that hassle of having to, if you just want to relax and just sit back and, you know, feel opulent. Here, Jeeves, let's take the boat to Disney Springs today. Just don't talk, you look at your pilot, the captain's name tag, so you can actually call the captain by his real name. And a lot of those, the ferry captains actually have a nautical experience in, specifically with the boats that they like to hire former military. So former people who are in the Navy or the Coast Guard or things along those lines that have a background in driving boats and being around the water and stuff like that, which is
I
really, I think,
love
awesome.
I love watching them like pull up to the docks. Like for me, if I had to pull up the boat up to the dock, it would like be 4 or 5 times of trying to back in and then pull forward and back in and pull forward. But they do it like so smooth and easy. And I don't know, this is just maybe my thing, but it seems like the boat cast members, they kind of have a fun, easy rapport with each other. Like they're friendly. I mean, all the cast members are great and they're all friendly and nice. But I think that like because these boat like there's usually two or three that work together on the boats. They kind of have like a little bit of a like fun. You can tell that they really like hanging out with each other, and it's fun to listen to their stories and kind of they'll tease each other if they don't get it just right, or if they don't throw the rope the right way or tie it up the right way. It's kind of a fun thing.
Yeah, they have a great rapport with each other. I agree. With the monorail, which I can't decide if the monorail is my favorite or second favorite. With one and two, it's tough. But over 150,000 guests every day will ride it. 500, or excuse me, 50 million guests a year will ride the monorail. That just says something. I do want to caution you that the ramps here can be steep going up and down to the station. So if you are pushing a stroller or a wheelchair, make sure you have control over that and are very careful because you don't want to let that thing go going down those ramps because it'll, you know, build a, it'll snowball on you. Now they have 14.7 total miles of monorail track throughout Walt Disney World. There are 12 trains, each with a different color. And some of them were pretty neat. It's not just like the blue and the green because there's 12 of them as well. It's like there's the teal one, and it's so they get a little bit awesome with the names for them. And the really nice thing again about these trains is they have air conditioning. And probably the better thing is you don't need to fold your strollers up. Although if it's super crowded, then they'll ask you to. But for the most part, you don't have to fold your stroller, so you don't have to collapse it, which is great. They average about 30 miles an hour. Top speed is about 40. But the interesting thing is that they actually have speed limits and there's stoplights and things like that. So there's traffic control on the monorail tracks. That if one of the monorails ahead is a little bit slow getting out of the gate for the next stop, that they'll get a red light and they'll have to slow down and stop or stuff like that. So that's really neat that they have like the whole transportation system. So, it's the highway in the sky type thing. Currently in Walt Disney World, they are the Mark 6 trains that first debuted in 1989. They're about 200, they're over 200 feet long, 12 feet tall, and inside there's almost like 7 feet of headroom. So for taller people, you don't have to worry about ducking or banging your head, which is great. They're about 8.5 feet wide, and each of the trains has 6 cars, and they'll have seat 20 people in each car sitting and 40 standing. So you can really pack people in. So that's 360 guests per train. So that's one of the things with the monorail versus the ferries. The ferry can hold 600. The monorail train's only 360. So you can balance that out with the number of people who are getting on each one, depending on the crowds and the line and all that other good stuff. So the different routes, there are a total of three, well, technically four different routes, four different rails for the monorail. One is the maintenance spur that will go from the transportation ticket center out to where they can, the barn where they can do the maintenance on the trains. But then around the Magic Kingdom, around Seven Seas Lagoon, there are two routes. They connect to Magic Kingdom. They'll open about 30 minutes before the Magic Kingdom opens and they will close an hour after the Magic Kingdom does. There's the resort route, which will take you from the Magic Kingdom to the Contemporary, to the TTC, to the Polynesian, to the Grand Floridian. So it goes clockwise. And it can take about 15 to 20 minutes to go around that full loop. Then there's also the express route, which will connect directly between the Magic Kingdom and the Transportation Ticketing Center going counterclockwise. And that'll take about 10 minutes. So what we normally do is in the morning, we will take the express route going straight to the Magic Kingdom. And don't tell anybody, but in the evening, we get on and go the other way and get to go through the Contemporary twice, which is my favorite thing of riding the monorail, of going through the Contemporary. Ever since we stayed there when I was like 8 years old, that has been my favorite thing of, oh my God, there's a monorail that goes through the hotel. 8-year-old man, it was the coolest thing in the world.
The monorail is a big deal, and these monorail resorts are great. If you are traveling with littles, and Magic Kingdom is, where you're going to spend a lot of time in Magic Kingdom, booking one of the monorail resorts is a game changer in the fact that it makes it so easy to get to Magic Kingdom. So easy, like Matt was saying, put those strollers on, it's smooth. It saves your feet. And it's kind of a fun little, there's something about the monorails, the joy of like riding them. They're really cool. They're just like just a really cool mode of transportation in Walt Disney World and in Disneyland too.
It's kind of like a retro space age type thing, like Buck Rogers, whatever, from like the 50s of here's what the future is going to be like.
I was reading up on the monorail, and from what I understand, Walt Disney, he discovered the monorail traveling in Germany, and he was really fascinated by it. And so he brought the idea to Disneyland in 1959. And so it was the first daily operating monorail system in the US. And I think about how innovative that was and how people must have been like, you want to bring what to what? You want us to build what? And I love like a piece of, because the monorail in Disneyland, it's not as big. It doesn't have as much track, but it's still like a really cool like nod to like Disney history and innovation. And then I think it's really neat that they took it to Walt Disney World and really made it like something that is not only just novel, but very useful to get guests in and out of areas.
The one, it's kind of a story that we will remember forever. When our first trip to Disney, our daughter had just turned 5. She was about 5.5, and the last park that we went to happened to be Magic Kingdom, and we got on the monorail and we were coming around the corner, and we like, look, there's the castle. And she'd turn and she'd look and she would just swoon, and then she'd pretend to pass out. And it was just the cutest experience, because then you'd go around the corner and you didn't see it. It's like, oh, there it goes again. And, there's the castle. And she would do it all over again. And it was just, one of those memories that will last. She's 24 years old, and still remembering 20 years ago when she, for the first time, she saw the castle off in the distance. It was one of those experiences. It was fun.
I love that.
That's fabulous. And Katie mentioned about staying at one of the monorail resorts around Magic Kingdom, that if you want to even do that midday little break to go back to the pool, especially during the summer when it's hot, so convenient to do that. But even if you're not staying there, resort hopping in the middle of the day whenever it's hot and you need air conditioning and you don't want to just wait in a line, or if you're going to get a reservation for a lunch or even just get one of their quick service things, I know that's one of the things we normally do in the evening after we go to the Magic Kingdom.
I like to head out on the monorail, go to the Poly, and I like to have a Dole Whip at their Dole Whip stand at the Poly, because I don't know, maybe it's just because of the fact that it's like a novel place and it's like a break, but I think their Dole Whips are better there.
It fits with the theming. It just puts you in the spot. Environment has something to do with it. That's for sure. I think they put a little extra.
Guys, stop.
So, but we usually go to the Polynesian to get the Thai coconut meatballs that my wife likes was that Captain Cook's?
Yeah.
So yeah, that's our favorite. And the other nice thing about being at one of the monorail resorts is that if you have little kids, you can leave the park a little bit earlier, get back to your hotel, and watch the fireworks. And so having that distance and a little bit more muted booms, from the explosions, that can change a terrifying, overwhelming, experience into something that is a whole lot more enjoyable, especially because they pipe the music in, so you get to hear the music in. You don't get to see all the projections on Main Street, but you can still see them on the top of the castle and see the fireworks and hear the music. So it still puts you in that in the mood. And plus, once you're done, you're ahead of the crowds and you're a whole lot closer to your beds, so you can get to bed a little bit earlier and get up ready for the next day. And if you want to hear more about the monorail resorts, Amanda and I did a podcast about them as well. And so there's also the Epcot route, which is a bit longer. It opens 30 minutes before Epcot, closes 2 hours after Epcot. So it's open a little bit longer. And the route here will take about 15 minutes to get there. And sometimes I just want to ride this a few times in a row, just because whenever you get to Epcot, the monorail goes around, well, what used to be called Future World. Now it's World Discovery and World Nature and World Celebration. But I need to ride it twice, because one time I have to look out the left-hand side to see what it looks like there. Then I have to ride it again to look out the right-hand side to see Spaceship Earth and all the stuff that's on the inside. So you're getting those views. You got to ride it twice in a row. Just personal opinion. I don't know.
We used to ride the monorail before Moana's Living Waters opened up, which that's in Epcot, and it is so cool. It's like really, really neat. It's one of those like attractions that is chill, but just so cool. We used to ride the monorail just to get a little hidden sneak peek to see how it was coming along. Because you have that over the head over view.
Yeah, whenever they have the barrier walls set up so you can't quite see what the construction looks like, but you're up ahead, up higher, and you can see into it. Yeah, we did that
And I
too.
think I was saying on with the Flower and Garden Festival, get on the monorail because you get the a view of the flower beds that you can't get anywhere else. Really neat.
Oh, the amount of color from up there. Yes, absolutely.
The one thing that I was thinking about too from the ticket center, when you're going to get on the monorails, they have three different ramps. So when if you're going to go to the Magic Kingdom, you want to make sure you go up the correct ramp, or you have to go all the way down and all the way back up another one in order to get on the correct monorail for your trip, because we've probably done it. It's like,
We
oh
did
man,
that
I
on
want the
our
other one.
we did that
I
on
went
our
over
last
there. So you
Yeah,
have to
and if
be kind of, sometimes you get going with the flow of traffic and then you realize, oh, wait a minute, I'm not going to the same place they are.
yeah, we've done that. That we've gone. Well, I don't know if we did it on mistake or if it was just the only one that was open. The express one was closed, so we got in line for the resort one because that was the only one that was open, and so we had to go through the Polynesian and then the Grand Floridian. By the way, that's not a bad route just to ride around and see that because you get a real up close perspective of those different resorts, and you get that little bit overhead thing. So you get to look down, like, oh, look, there's their pool, and look at this place here, and look, there's the wedding chapel, and things like that. But we got on it, and as we're about to, the train rolls up, and we're next in line to get on. Then they open the express one. We're like, really? Then there was a huge line for that. I was like, well, we let's get on. So we took the scenic route that morning. But yeah, that's
Sometimes
a
that's
good
fun
point.
too.
Yes, yeah, leisurely. Yeah, get there early enough. It's not you're not missing anything. You're getting the extra view, and it's fun. It's a story, right? More
That's
memories.
right.
But yeah, that's a great point, Karen, to make sure you read the signs and get on the correct one. Because you don't want to be like, wait a minute, why are we going away from the Magic Kingdom? All right, now this next one again, this is one or two for me. I can't decide. The Skyliner, which is Disney's gondola type ride that opened in 2019. It only goes about 11 miles per hour. There's no air conditioning, but they do have vents. So whenever you're up there, you do get a breeze that comes through. And being up a little bit higher, it's escapes some of the little bit of mugginess and humidity that can be trapped in the trees below. Strollers do not need to be folded for this either. They are wheelchair accessible. And this is pretty neat that some of the gondolas can be pulled aside for anyone who needs extra help boarding or extra time. So that doesn't stop the whole system, although sometimes that does happen too.
Yeah, it never really, so the way it's supposed to work is it's supposed to work like it moves like magic. So it never fully stops to unload or load passengers. They move it through at like reduced speeds at different stations and stuff to allow guests to hop on and off. Like I've heard of people call it the Disney's magic carpet.
That's very accurate.
I honestly like when Disney brought this out, I was like, oh, really? I can't like I can't imagine that that's like a great thing. And now like a trip to Walt Disney World is not complete without like a gondola ride. It's just without a ride on the Skyliner. I love the Skyliner. In fact, when we go in April, we are staying one night at the Art of Animation, and part of the reason why is because we were like, we can stay there and get on the Skyliner and get to where we need to go really easy.
Yeah, we often ride this just to ride it. It
Yep.
is just a fun thing to do. And the views you get from up top that you can see all four parks and some of the perspectives of there's one point where you're looking on one side of the line and you see Hollywood Studios, and on the other side you can see all the way over to Animal Kingdom, and you can see different points. You can see all the way to Magic Kingdom. You can see the Contemporary and Bay Lake Tower, and of course it goes right by Epcot, so you see that too. But it's just really it's just fun to do. It's like, oh look, and the whole time it's I can see this. Look at that view here. Oh, that's neat. So it holds up to 10 guests. It'll open an hour before the early entry starts, closes 90 minutes after either Hollywood Studios or Epcot. And for the extended evening hours, it'll close an hour late, but it only has the route from Epcot to the Riviera that's open late, mainly because the extended evening hours are only open to guests staying at the deluxe resorts or the villas, and so the Riviera would be the only one that applies to that. Some gondolas will have Disney characters on them, and people always want to be on those. Of like, oh, I want to be the one that has Mickey, or I want the one that has Peter Pan, or whatever. But the way they put it on, it kind of obscures the view a little bit. It has those little dots you can see out, but it's kind of like a shade thing. So I always like to be on ones that don't have it because you get a clearer view. And if you're on one that has it, you can't see the picture anyway. So when you're on one that doesn't, you get to see more of the different characters floating by. So there's my little insider tip. So this has the main hub at the Caribbean Beach or Caribbean Beach. I've heard it both ways. And then the lines will one will go to Hollywood Studios, one goes out to the Art of Animation and Pop Century, and then one goes to the Riviera and then to Epcot. And so, um, one thing to caution though is that if you drive to Epcot and park in the parking lot and then do some other things throughout the day, if you're taking the Skyliner back to Epcot, you cannot get through Epcot to get to the parking lot Skyliner station. These are on opposite entrances to the park. So you have to use different transportation. So either way, that's walking over to the Yacht and Beach Club or the boardwalk and taking the bus around, or if you want to get one of the minivans or something along those lines. But just be aware of that for your planning.
And they do not operate if there's a nasty, nasty storm. So if you're staying at one of these resorts that has, and you're going in over to Hollywood Studios, just know that if there's a storm going on, they don't operate. And so they'll go ahead and they'll do bus transportation. The other thing to know is that if you are staying at the Caribbean Beach Resort, if you're staying at Pop Century, if you're staying at Art of Animation, the only way to get to Hollywood Studios from those resorts is the Skyliner. So if you have like a fear of heights, if you have like any trepidation about riding something like this, that might not be the best resort to choose to stay if you're planning on going to Hollywood Studios, just because this is the way, right?
This is the way.
Yep.
Very appropriate for Hollywood Studios.
Have you ever ridden them after dark? It's really dark up there. They don't have lights. So if it's after sundown and it's dark, the only lights that you see are off in the distance. But sometimes, if you time it right and you can see some fireworks going off, that's kind of cool up there. But yeah, if you don't like dark spaces that you can't get out of, you might want to think about getting back to your resort a little bit earlier before the sun goes completely down.
I don't know if we ever rode it completely after dark. I know we've done it right around sunset though, because I've gotten some really awesome pictures from being up there, and especially with Florida being so flat, that seeing the sun go down below the horizons, it was some little bit of clouds on there too, and so we got some really pretty colors. And yeah, I can't decide if I like Skyliner better or the monorail. The monorail, it has just a special place in my heart, but the Skyliner, the views are just so amazing up there that I don't know. I have to do like a coin toss. Depends on which one I rode last. And now, one way that you can always get around Walt Disney World is walking. And specifically, there's that walkway from between Epcot and Hollywood Studios, and that path then that will loop around Crescent Lake and a side path over to the Swan and Dolphin. It can take about 20 to 25 minutes to do the walk, depending on your pace and things along those lines. Also, from the Polynesian and Grand Floridian, you can get to the Magic Kingdom. And if you're going from the Polynesian in 20 to 30 minutes, it can be a little bit longer. It's about a mile and a half. And then even from Old Key West to Saratoga Springs to Disney Springs, it's what's called the Saratoga Springs Nature Path. That's about a mile and a half. So you can do that walk too. So if you're at Walt Disney World and you realize I'm not getting enough steps in, you have that option. So if you're training for one of the marathons and you need to get those in, these are a lot more pleasant when it's during the fall and winter and early spring times than middle of the summer from personal experience. Although the one nice thing about the walking pass, and you can even go from the contemporary to Magic Kingdom as well, and it's a very short, maybe 5 minute walk. It's not quite as fun as taking the monorail and not air conditioned, but you can get there quicker. That you don't have to worry about wait times. And okay, is there going to be a crowd for the boat? Did I just miss the boat? Things along those lines that you pretty much know how long it's going to take you to walk and the pacing you're going to get. So it's a little bit more of a sure thing. And it's usually not very crowded, so you're not going to, get too many delays that way. So there's a plus side to it. Anything else that you would like to add about any of the Disney transportation other than it's awesome?
I just love that it's like a puzzle that all works together to make it so that the guests can go ahead and reach the parks and any other Disney activities easily. And there's lots of different options. I mean, really and truly, you could do a whole day of just different transportation, um, planes, trains, automobiles, monorails, skylines, Skyliner, right? We always love it. Like that first day that you come in to Walt Disney, we always are like, okay, we rode a plane today, we rode a boat today, we rode a monorail today, we rode a train today, we rode a car. Like it's like a whole like everything that you can think of any way to move people from one spot to another.
And if you go to Disney Springs, you could potentially ride a hot air balloon too,
Yeah.
and in a fib car. So how often do you have to do that? The only thing missing would be a submarine. So we have to bring back Finding Nemo's submarine voyage, or bring that over
Oh,
from Disneyland.
it's one of my least favorite rides. I don't like it.
Would you like to sit up on the couch and discuss your feelings, Katie?
I just don't like
Claustrophobia?
it. I don't like I don't like it. It's just yeah, I was so excited when I found out that you could do like the chicken exit and have like a like you can see like there's a little like spot that you can ask to see what you can actually see on the ride, but you don't actually have to get into the little tube. Yeah, no, thank you. I'll pass.
Karen, do you have your travel tip for today?
Yeah, I I've got one, and I don't think I've heard anybody talk about this on some of the other podcasts. So I think it's a new one. But if you or your family are light sleepers, consider bringing like a white noise machine or downloading one on your phone. I've seen, on some of the Facebook sites that people are, oh, it's so noisy, and I just got my little one to sleep, and then this noise starts or this music starts here, and and wakes them up, and they have trouble getting them back to sleep. So try using a white noise machine or something to cover up some of the extra noises, because there's going to be lots of noises that you don't have at your home that are going to be distracting, especially if you have light sleepers or little ones that you have trouble getting down at night. Um,
Definitely a good tip. What we've done is we'll put the TV on and the resort channels that has a little bit of the music, put that kind of on low. Sometimes we'll if it's late at night we'll put the blanket over the TV, kind of keep the extra light down. But yeah, that's a good thing to give something calm and soothing and block out the extra unexpected noises.
yeah.
And depending on the resort you're at, you can request some of the areas that are a little bit more off the beaten path so that they are a little bit more obscure and isolated so you don't get that um, lesser chance of more traffic, lesser traffic, so you're not going to quite get those noises quite as often. Katie, what about you?
My travel tip is I think that it's super important that if you're going to book a Walt Disney World trip, like get with Matt, get with Karen, get with me. Here's the thing. A lot of the times we'll help you make your reservations for like your dining and things like that, but we'll also help tell you how to get there, right? It can be an overwhelming thing to be like, okay, we have breakfast here, how do we get from our resort to breakfast? And we want a breakfast at Chef Mickey's. I don't even know how to start making the reservation, and that's what we're here for. So travel advisors are great in the fact that we can help put all of the pieces together to make your trip fabulous and easy. And it's always worth talking to us and seeing what kind of expertise we can bring.
Definitely, because yeah, if you're staying at one resort and you're like, oh, we're going to Chef Mickey's, where is that? And then we can. That's one of the nice things. Then you can get to either get your bus there, or if you're driving, they get to take the monorail from Chef Mickey's to Magic Kingdom, so we can get put in all the fun stuff. Um, awesome, thank you, Katie. With mine now, be careful with and allow plenty of time to get from one place to the next in Walt Disney World, especially if you have those reservations, like Katie was mentioning. That Walt Disney World is the size of San Francisco, roughly. Actually, I think it's a little bit bigger, so it can take time to get around, and especially whenever you are getting to the parks or going on the monorail, especially even from the resorts. Another thing, getting into the parks, you have to go through security, so plan for that. Sometimes it can take up to 45 minutes to get from one place to another, especially during the busy times. And if the buses are, you have to wait for an extra bus or whatever else the situation is. Some transportation options are not always available, so you have to be prepared to adjust, or if you're getting out late or whatever else. And again, sometimes walking is faster, and I may or may not have walked from one place to another. That there's no sidewalks there, so I don't always recommend that. Just watch out for the alligators too, and other wildlife. And I mentioned before, though, and here's your bonus thing, just a reiteration of before, that the transportation there doesn't need to be just transportation. That you can take it just to enjoy it as a ride or an experience in itself. And one thing that is often you know, is underrated is resort hopping, of getting on their Skyliner, if you're at Hollywood Studios and going and walking around the Caribbean beach, or going to the Riviera and see what it's like, or going to Art of Animation Pop Century, which have amazing, awesome theming, and kids love just the outlandish stuff for some of that, or just going all the way over to Epcot and then walking around Crescent Lake with the Yacht and Beach Club and the boardwalk in the Swan and Dolphin, and then coming back. Or if you're at Magic Kingdom, getting on the monorail and going around to the Contemporary and Bay Lake Tower, or the Polynesian and the Grand Floridian, and just walking in there, because those resorts are so, so gorgeous. And they have awesome food there too. So if you have a resort day where you're not going to the parks, there's still so much to do that you can do for free. That's not going to cost you anything. You can still make a whole day of it with some awesome memories and having some great experiences. And they're just fun to ride. Like I said, the monorail and the going through the Contemporary, that's something that is always special to me. And as a side little hack, as I mentioned before, the parking at Disney Springs is free. So if you want to avoid the parking fees at their going to the parks, park at Disney Springs, then get on one of the buses, and you can then go to the different parks. Now that will take you a whole lot more time, and you can't quite get there early. But if you're having a leisurely day and you're on a budget, there are ways around that.
The one thing, Matt, with your travel tip is we happen to be using the monorail to go to, I think, Chef Mickey's for dinner, or to a restaurant. And the monorail broke down. And so we were really stressing about getting to our dinner reservation and not be getting into trouble because we're late, or they're giving us a fee, or we not being able to eat when we finally get there. If something like that happens, make sure you call the restaurant and let them know what's happening and that you're trying to get there, but we're running into issues, and they'll accommodate you that way. We ended up walking from, I think, Grand Floridian to the Contemporary. I feel like trying to run to get there because we were going to be late for our reservation, and it was way too much stress than we needed, and it didn't have to be, but we were newbies on that trip.
And after making that trek, you earned yourself an extra dessert.
That's right. So.
And even if you're not stuck on the monorail and you're just late, if there's always an out, say, yes, we were at the Animal Kingdom and we did the Kilimanjaro safaris and there was a giraffe jam. You can always
Correct.
blame the giraffe jam.
Yes.
So this has been a lot of fun. All right, I want to go back. I just want to go. I don't care about going to the parks. I just want to go ride the Skyliner now and the monorail and maybe a few boats. So if you have a destination or experience that you'd like to have us discuss on the Where Yinz Goin podcast, or if you'd like to share your feedback or about a favorite destination or a travel tip, let us know. We'd love to hear your ideas and what you have to say. Karen, how can people get a hold of you?
The best way to get a hold of me, my email address is karen@dreamsbydesigntravel.com. I'm also on Facebook at Dreams by Design with Karen.
For me, my social media, I'm at Matt with DBD on Facebook, X, and Instagram. Email is Matt, M-A-T-T, at dreamsbydesigntravel.com. All this information is going to be in the episode description. So if you'd like to contact us to book a trip, or if you have any questions, you know how to reach us. You don't have to write that down right now or have a photographic memory or worry about spelling or anything along those lines. Ladies, thanks for taking this trip with me and going places,
It was
figuratively.
fun traveling.
So please like, follow, subscribe, leave a review, tell a friend. If you liked what you heard, let other people know. We'd like to get the word about what we're doing here and grow our audience. Please join us next time. We're heading out in that. We'll see you later.